Fine, I'll talk about the M7. We're told that the Army's new XM7 promises a one-shot overmatch, swap calibers, add a smart optic, and suddenly every rifleman becomes a sniper. Lays the target and pull the trigger, every problem is solved. But does changing the rifle really change what a rifleman actually does on the battlefield? Quick caveat here, this is not a tech teardown of the M7. A bunch of other YouTube channels have already talked about the fundamental problems with the M7. They've done a great job with that. Early fielding problems that everyone's talking about, we're talking about ruptured cases, gouged barrels, magazines just kind of dropping out. They will get fixed or mitigated as testing and soldier feedback continues. That's what happened with the original M16 back during Vietnam, and the service corrected it in subsequent iterations. The A1, almost every weapon has teething problems. We'll figure it out. But what if the problem behind the M7 rifle isn't the rifle? What if it's the failure to define what a rifleman is supposed to be? While researching this video, I was in Texas, and Texas has pretty interesting laws, what you can and can't see on the internet, and that's why I use PIA VPN. I was just in Texas. They block certain parts of the internet, but I'll tell you this, disobeying unlawful authority is as American as throwing tea into a harbor. PIA VPN has been a sponsor of mine for years. I use them whenever I travel. It creates a tunnel between my computer and the public internet that hackers and rogue government agents can't penetrate. It's that extra layer of security on top of your current internet traffic, which is why I use it. And also, the location changing feature is important. Yeah, you can use it to change your location so you can watch Netflix movies that are available in your country. That's really useful. But about 1/3 of U.S. states, including Texas, have bans on what you can see on the internet. Until that worms its way through court, you can use PIA VPN to electronically move your location to make it appear you're in a location that is less restrictive. Best of all, one subscription covers all your devices. I'm doing this from a friend's house in Virginia Beach. I got PIA VPN on my laptop and my phone. So click the link in the description below, hit the QR code, go to piavpn.com/Macbeth, get 83% off plus 4 months free, and start getting the whole internet. Here's the short factual part. The Army chose a 6 Hours MCX Spear design, known as the XM7 or M7, and a matched automatic rifle called the XM250 to replace the M4 and the M249 as the next generation squad weapon. The whole system runs on the 6.8 by 51 millimeter or 227 Fury family of rounds and a digital fire control optic called the XM157. Why the change? Adversary body armor has gotten better. The logic is simple here. The 5.56 loses effectiveness at extended ranges or against modern body armor. The 6.8 millimeter is designed to restore lethality, better penetration, long range, and barrier defeat. It's turning cover into concealment here. One good shot at 300 to 500 meters should do what multiple 5.56 rounds struggle with, but I'll get to ranges in a second. Mechanically, the M7 rifle is a short-stroke gas piston rifle tuned for higher pressures. It's ambidextrous, it's modular, runs SR-25 pattern magazines, and it comes with a suppressor and fire control optic that combines laser range finding with ballistic solutions on the display. In testing, the Army began to field prototypes in 2024. All of that sounds great on paper. The real combat isn't a textbook exercise. The big question I want to press on today is not whether the M7 can kill one guy through a plate carrier. Absolutely it can. But whether the weapon actually changes how small units fight and whether that change is worth the trade-offs. Start with the obvious trade-offs here. Bigger rounds mean bigger magazines, more recoil. That reduces how much ammunition each infantryman can realistically carry. Typical infantry load for an M4 soldier today is 200 plus rounds or so. 7 30-round magazines. That's already a compromise between lethality and mobility, although God knows you carry as much ammunition as you possibly can. The M7 rifle has bigger rounds and bigger magazines, so now soldiers might only be able to carry around 160 rounds per soldier. If each soldier carries larger magazines and fewer rounds, then after a few engagements, that squad is going to be short on sustained fire. That matters. A squad doesn't win necessarily on single shots, it wins on combined effects. So let's talk doctrine and roles. Standard 4-man Army fire team looks like this. Team leader, grenadier, automatic rifleman, also known as the saw gunner, and a rifleman. The saw, or its replacement, provides volume of fire and sustained suppression that lets other teams maneuver. So, you could kind of think of the saw as the most casualty producing weapon in a fire team. And when you think about it, in some ways, the rest of the fire team is the security element for the squad automatic weapon. I mean, when you are in a patrol base, where do you put your squad automatic weapon? You put it down the most likely avenue of approach for the enemy. So the light machine gun is the most casualty producing weapon in that fire team. Put a pin in that, it's going to be important later. Replace every rifle with a long-range, harder-hitting system, and you haven't really removed the need for suppression. You still have the saw. I mean, the Army considered that it needs a saw enough to create the XM250. So let's be honest here. The squad automatic weapon is doing most of the heavy work, keeping the enemy suppressed anyway. Now, here's where comparisons to Marines matter. The Marine Corps experimented with a different model for the fire team. They replaced the saw with accurate aimed fire across more riflemen. And this is where the M27 infantry automatic rifle comes in. And the Marines emphasized marksmanship and fire discipline over pure volume of fire. 12 well-trained Marines firing accurately generate more effective suppression than a single, less accurate belt-fed gun. Trade-off here is training and time. Marines invest heavily in marksmanship and unit cohesion to make that model work. The Army could go that route, but it's about 3 times larger than the Marine Corps. It's a freaking Army. So training every single soldier to Marine Corps standards is expensive. And does a 68 Tango Army veterinary tech specialist really need to shoot like a Marine? That brings us to the XM157 optic. The Army's thinking is this: use electronics to shortcut some of that training. Laze the target, get a firing solution on screen, take one precise shot. The optic can make shooters faster and more effective at long range, but a screen doesn't make someone a fire team leader, doesn't tell them when to hold fire, when to maneuver. It also introduces new single points of failure. Optics break, batteries die, software has bugs. Now, from personal experience, when the Army started fielding the M68 optic, us old guys from the 1990s said the same thing. What are you going to do when you run out of batteries? And you need to be proficient in iron sights, right? Yeah, you need iron sights, but honestly, we were fine. We carried the M68 and the ACOG in Iraq. We were fine. Yeah, we were doing counterinsurgency where we had established supply lines instead of large-scale combat operations, which we might see against China or other adversaries, but we were fine. The fact is that if you're ever in a situation where you can't get batteries for your sight due to the supply situation, you're probably not going to be able to get ammo either. So worrying about the XM157 breaking or running out of batteries, it might be a false problem. Now, back to the main issue here. I suppose the one-shot idea works the first time in an engagement. All right, you kill the target, you laze. Now what? The rest of the enemy goes to ground. Drop, seek cover, return fire, right? So now suppression becomes about defeating cover. We're not just talking about one shot against enemy body armor. Now the enemy is dispersed, now they're behind cover, which means volume of fire, area suppression. And it might mean bringing in mortars, it might mean bringing in medium machine guns like the M240. These days it might mean calling in for drone drop munitions or saturating the target with artillery. In practice, you're kind of back to the same problem. You need lots of rounds on target. So the rifle and the optic didn't eliminate the need for sustained fire effects. It complements it. It's great on that first shot, but it doesn't replace it. Now, if you have fewer rounds, that capacity gap, that becomes a real operational risk. There are plausible mitigations. You could try logistics solutions, more ammo resupply, dedicated munitions vehicles, the ISV, for example, that can become a rolling ammo carrier, or even autonomous resupply drones. I'm just kind of spitballing here. So what are the realistic ways the Army could get the benefits of the M7 without the downsides? Well, I can think of 3 options. Option A, treat the M7 as a designated marksman tool. Maybe you give 1 per squad that gives built-in overmatch capability at range against armor or barriers without forcing every single soldier to sacrifice rounds of mobility. Yeah, it's logistically complex, but is it really any different than how some units in Afghanistan had a designated marksman with an M14 rifle? Again, this is a problem we can overcome. Wargaming. Option B, double down on automatic firepower. I'm just spitballing here, and maybe it's because I'm a heavy weapons guy, but If suppression kind of remains king after that first shot, consider fielding more light machine guns. Maybe increase the ratio of automatic rifles in each fire team. I mean, just doing a thought exercise here. If the 6.8 millimeter round is really that good at barrier defeat, then let's freaking defeat some barriers by doubling up on it and chew through those barriers. We're kind of ignoring the psychological cost of combat here. I mean, if I'm a bad guy and I'm facing 2 light machine guns in a fire team or 4 in a whole squad, I better have a platoon of like 30 dudes behind me. All right? Because I want nothing to do going up against 2 light or maybe 4 light machine guns. And if my cover is getting chewed up, like in the beginning scene of Alien Nation, I'm probably going to decide to be somewhere else. Getting an enemy to submit is just as effective as killing them. Remember, it's not fight or flight, it's fight, flight, posture, or submit. So the cost, yeah, more weapons, more ammo, more training, but it might be cheaper than buying and carrying heavy rifles for everyone and then having them run dry faster in a firefight. Option C is training and doctrine. You can keep the light rifle, the M4, for most soldiers and invest in marksmanship and fire and maneuver fundamentals. I had to say, I know the Army's not going to do it because that would mean increasing the basic training time, spending more time on the rifle range. But it is an option, right? It is theoretically an option. And it's the Marine lesson in a microcosm, right? It's not free, but it takes time and institutional patience, turning every single veterinary tech into a sniper. The bottom line here is that the M7 and the 6.8 millimeter round are a technical answer to a real problem. The Army needs more range and penetration. Absolutely. But buying a new rifle doesn't answer the tactical and logistical questions that shape how a unit actually fights. And you can't solve suppression, resupply, and maneuver problems by kind of throwing a new cartridge at it and along with a fancy optic. So when someone sells the dream of lays, press, one shot, remember the rest of the system. It's a rifle, not a silver bullet. It's a node inside a squad and a logistical tail that goes all the way back to Lake City Ammunition Plant. And if you want tactical outcomes, you have to change the team composition, the doctrine, maybe the logistics, maybe the weapons they actually fight with. The M7 can definitely be a force multiplier, no doubt, but maybe only if the Army adapts it correctly and uses it correctly. Weapons don't fight by themselves. People and supply chains help out a lot. Hey, if you want to support the channel, grab one of my Intel Life t-shirts. You know, I'm also a novelist. I have 2 books out. I'm always dropping stuff here. The Last Republic and The Wind Machine, available on Amazon or on Audible if you're a Marine. Thank you guys so much for watching.
In the modern age of progress and preparedness, one thing separates the professional from the amateur: appearance. That's why forward-thinking Americans choose Bunker Branding Apparel, the official uniform of those who get things done. Each shirt is precision engineered and field tested under rigorous conditions such as extended YouTube filming operations, Substack editorial duty, and the occasional internet argument. Designed for comfort, durability, and undeniable sense of tactical cool. So remember, citizens, when you're defending democracy, refueling freedom, or simply mowing the strategic lawn, Bunker Branding keeps you mission ready, wrinkle-free, and unmistakably American.